great pleasure to introduce a speaker, Mr. Ali, who came here to hopefully change the way you think about the destination that you're trying to achieve or reach towards and how you're going to get to it. Why we time this particular speech for this particular time is, someone can guess, it's because it's just before your exams, mock 3, it's all this kind of crunch time for everyone who is sitting here. So I hope, number one, you will enjoy it, but number two, take all this seriously, because Mr. Ali is a professional coach who does this for adults and students. Because us adults, believe it or not, we're not perfect either, we still need to improve our mindsets. But if you can improve at your level already, that you have this kind of step ahead of all of us. Okay, so over to Mr. Ali.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. How is everyone doing this morning? Glad to hear. You are awake, at least. 15 years ago, I was taking a course with IBM Canada. The course is called Career Directions Workshop. It's one of these courses that they ask you a lot of questions, you have to fill out a lot of surveys, maybe something that you're doing now to know which field you want to get into, which university you want to get into. So we did fill out a lot of surveys, we answered a lot of questions about ourselves. Day number 3, the teacher said this: I want you to pull out a piece of paper and write down about your dream job. So me being the smart student that I am, I raised my hand and I asked, how wild do you want us to be? And she said, you can be as wild as you want. I think I wrote probably 3 pages that day, and I put my head down. I was hoping, she wouldn't come by and see me. That's exactly what she did. She actually comes by with my head down, and then she extends her arm, saying, may I? And she wants to read the things that I've actually written. I gave it to her, and I'm looking, kind of embarrassed of the 3 pages of my dreams, which I've actually put on those pages. And here's what she said. She said something so profound, until today, it rings in my ear. Probably it has a lot to do with the presentation I'm doing today. Here's what she said. Someone out there is doing this job, and they're loving it, but it's not you. So what's your plan to change that? Someone out there is doing this job, and they're loving it, but it's not you. So what's your plan to change that? Now at that stage, I have 2 choices. I can either be happy only when I achieve that destination, which may not be the right one for me. Or I can embark on a journey of positive change. So I can change myself so that destination could be even better if I actually do the right steps and I enjoy the journey along the way. So you have the resources within yourself. You have the resources to create the best version of yourself. It's all within ourselves. You have it. You have the gold within. So let's have some fun with this, because I want you to trust yourself and to know that you know more than you think that you do, and let me prove it to you. What is this man doing in this picture? And look at the top. Anyone? Please go ahead. He's thinking. He's actually inside the box. Now, if he wants to be more creative, where does he need to think? Outside the box. Absolutely. So, you knew this. I didn't teach you that. You knew this. Now, let me ask you, if you stay within your comfort zone, the area that makes you always comfortable and not challenged, then probably you're not going to see this when you go outside your comfort zone. What do you think is behind the word what? Could be dreams. Close enough to the word magic. Magic begins to happen when you take yourself outside your comfort zone. Anyone knows what brand camera is this? Exactly. And it is written kind of small. it is a Kodak. Now, if you want to buy a camera today, would you buy a Kodak? You wouldn't. You probably would go for a Canon, Konica Minolta, Nikon, but you wouldn't go for Kodak. They did a lot of mistakes, which we will actually explain in a bit. When I say search engine, what comes to mind? I didn't have to say that. You guys knew this. It is actually Google. Were they the number one search engine to come into the market? Were they number one? They were not. They were actually number 17 back in 1998. Here's how you know a company is successful, for example. If I want to go and search for the word fishing, how many people would actually say, I'm going to search the World Wide Web for the word fishing? Do you do that? What do you say? I'm going to Google fishing. Absolutely, that's what you do, and this is an indication of how successful a company is. You can say, hand me a Kleenex. It's not a Kleenex, it might be a fine. Hand me a fine. It's not a fine, it might be a different brand. But when you use the company name for the verb, then you know they have been successful. So why talk about things that we know? I asked you a few questions, you answered them. Why are we talking about things that we know? It's because of this. This is gold. Each and every one of you has gold within. But if you're walking in the jungle and you come across this, and you don't know that this is actually gold, what are you going to do with it? Probably you're going to build a brick wall, which is not the best use of gold. But once you know that this is actually gold, then every atom, every gram is going to make a lot of sense. Every gram will have to be used in its right place. Tap into the inner gold that you have within you. Why? Because you are uniquely different. Each and every one of you has gold within, as a gift that needs to come out to the world. And you will enjoy your life at that stage, because you are uniquely different. What you do well, I may not do well. What I do well, you may not do well. We complement each other. But you need to know what is the gift that you have within. When I say salad bowl, what do I mean? I mean, the cucumber is individually a cucumber. The tomato is a tomato. The lettuce is a lettuce. But collectively, they make a very nice salad. NIA, you are the students. You have your own individuality as students. You have the teachers, you have the staff. All of you collectively, you make Newton International Academy. Tap into the gold that you have within. Now, as you embark on the journey of positive change, to actually come out with the gold that you have within, you must recognize the signs. Because as you go through life, you will encounter things that you need to learn. Am I heading in the right direction or not? So, let's say that you're going from Doha and you're heading to Ruwais, for example. And you're looking at different signs and it says 100 kilometers. That's when you get to Ruwais. But then it says 110. But then you're looking at a different sign and it says 120. Question to you, are you heading in the right direction? How do you know? It's the sign. The sign told you that it's supposed to be going 100, 90, 80, 70. It's actually going in the opposite direction. You need to learn to recognize the sign. So for example, when you recognize the sign, you need to be willing to change. Kodak was rigid as a company. And I'll show you exactly why. They were so rigid and they were not willing to change. And as a result, they're not on the shelf anymore. This is fun. Who can tell me what this is? Someone said printer. What else? Go ahead. I can't hear you, but most likely, let me tell you what this is. Someone said projector. This is actually the first digital camera that was invented. The very first one. Can you imagine? This is what you would be holding with yourself to go to events. And cassettes. That's how they used to store the images on cassettes. Now, here's the painful truth. If I ask you, who invented this? You might think, oh, it must be Kodak's competition. Why? Because Kodak no longer exists and someone recognized the sign and have been successful. No, it was this guy. His name is David Sassoon. And you'll be thinking, okay, so David must have worked for Kodak's competition. No, David was actually working for Kodak. And he actually took his little invention and he went to Kodak management. And you know what they told him? Haha, this is cute. Don't tell anyone, because this is filmless photography. They made their money selling film, but they were not visionary to recognize the sign that they're heading in the wrong direction. As a result of failing to do so, went from 20 billion to 1.3. I don't even see them on the shelves anymore. They failed to recognize the sign. I used to rent my movies from Blockbuster. All over the place. Every intersection that you go to, there's a Blockbuster. And I used to rent them on this. Have you guys seen a VHS tape before? Yeah. Okay, but you don't see it anymore. And then they moved, okay, now there's DVDs. So I go to Blockbuster, all the VHS tapes have been replaced by DVDs. Now here's the question, what came after DVDs? Movies on demand, Netflix. So these guys were alarmed. Are we going to be successful? What's going on here? They went to the analysts and they said, we are concerned. What should we do? Back in 1999. And they said, your concerns over these technologies are overstated. Here's what happened. They failed to recognize the sign. Every store is actually closed. All their signs are on the ground. They failed to recognize the sign. Now let me give you an example. There's a big boss in one of the companies, and the guy used to lose his temper quite a bit. Whenever he's in meetings and someone upsets him, he actually goes on a temper fit and he cannot control his emotion. So he hired a consultant and he said, this is my problem. I need your help. The consultant said, I have to shadow you for a period of 4 weeks, and then we can sit down and brief. After 4 weeks, which is 1 month, the consultant said, here's what I found. There are certain signs that you display before you lose your temper. For example, if you're sitting down and you're holding a pen, you start to tap your pen on the table. This is a sign that you need to recognize that you're heading in a direction you're not going to be happy about, which is losing your temper. He said if you're sitting down, you start to tap your foot on the ground. This is a sign. The earlier you recognize these signs, the more in control you will be of your behavior. He said your face turns red. Obviously, when someone's face turns red, it means, the blood is boiling, temperature is rising. So what do you need to do? Recognize these signs early enough so you have a chance to do something about this. Now, how do you recognize your own signs in school, for example? Grades. I'm an A+ student. And then I take my next report card, and it's a C. And then I take the next one, and it's a D. Is this a sign? Am I recognizing the sign? And if I do recognize the sign that I'm heading in the wrong direction, what do I need to do? If you're driving, you slow down, you look around, and you may need to take a U-turn. You seek help. You try to find out, okay, why is this happening? And you seek help, and you try to put corrective action plan. Now, we're talking about change, and we want it to be a positive change into our lives. So, when we talked about comfort zone, we said if you stay in your comfort zone, no magic is going to happen. Why? Because if we change nothing, then nothing will change. If we continue to do the exact same thing, which gave us a D, and we expect to get an A, then there's a problem. Because if we change nothing, then nothing will change. But do we like change as people? We don't. Why? Because we're happy with the comfort zone. We're happy with the status quo. We don't like change. But we seem to like the face of change and what change gives us. So here's something. Who can tell me what this is? Listening. I see fingers moving. Maybe someone's thinking jet engine. Washing machine. I like that. This is the first time I've heard washing machine. Okay. What else? box. You know, here's what this is. This is the first 1 gigabyte hard drive that was created by IBM in the 1980s. Can you see the man behind? This is 1 gig. If you see the man, probably you would need 4 men to carry this for you. So imagine I want to take a movie to my friend on a USB. I take all my friends to carry this machine. Doesn't sound like a lot of fun. Because the face of change gives me this. 256 gigabytes I fit between my 2 fingers. That's what it looked like before. This is what it looks like now. Do I like change? I absolutely do, and I like the positive ones. 5 megabytes in 1956. How many men are actually logging a 5? Now a single picture, you can actually, it's more than 5 megabytes. This is what it looked like back in 1956. Do I like change? I sure do. 13 men, count the men in the picture. This is in 1957, a single computer. One, being shipped to one of the clients. 13 men had to carry this. And now, the capacity of 13 of those fits between my 2 fingers. Do I like positive change? I absolutely do. This looks like a garage. Maybe some of you have seen this. It actually is the headquarters for HP in 1939. That's what they looked like. That's what they began. So you can have simple beginnings, but the end could be fascinating, and that could be your life too. Apple? How many people have? You have iPhones? Absolutely. This is what Apple. This is where the iPhone was invented in 1976. If you bought things from Amazon, this is what Amazon looked like in 1994. Google. In 1998, that's what it looked like. But here's what's funny. Data center that runs the Google operation. That's what it looked like back in 1998. If you go on Google data center, you will be amazed. You will think you're watching a sci-fi movie. I'm not going to put it on the screen for you. Go ahead and do this yourself. But that's what it looked like back in 1998. And today, it's like a sci-fi movie. I used to buy my gadgets from a place called Radio Shack. On this flyer, I used to be Saturday morning, and I'm waiting for it because I want to see what kinds of gadgets actually came into the market. And there's 14 different technologies on this flyer. 14, count them. Every single one of them had been replaced by this. Every single one of them. Do I like change? I absolutely do. How fast is change? Especially in our times. Is it too fast or too slow? Absolutely, and I can prove it with this chart. Now, for me to reach 50 million people, it took 75 years for the telephone to reach 50 million people. For the television, it took 13 years. Angry Bird, how many people have played Angry Bird before? Look at that. It took only 35 days for 50 million people to download Angry Birds. Now, when you want to overcome resistance to change, this is going to be fun. You think it's math and formula. This is very simple. I'm going to give you a hint. RC stands for resistance to change. We don't like change. We like things to be in our comfort zone, but there are things which we can do to overcome that resistance to change. And this BECKHARD had actually come up with this formula. Who can tell me what the D stands for? I like that. Dreams. What else? Dedication. A lot of good ideas coming. That's great. It actually stands for dissatisfaction. The dreams are coming. Dissatisfaction. Once I'm dissatisfied with my existing state, it means I need to do something about this. When I say student example, if I'm dissatisfied with the mark that I have today, this is where it begins, to overcome that resistance to change. V, what does V stand for? Vision. Someone said vision. If I have the vision that when I'm an A+ student, I'm actually going to be admitted into university with a scholarship. This is my vision. So I'm not happy now. I'm dissatisfied. However, I can see the vision of how it can happen. FS stands for, it's going to be a little difficult, first steps. What would be the first steps I need to make it happen? What are the first steps? Coaching question for you. When you get to that stage and you're thinking, what can I possibly do? Play it with a friend. It's a real coaching question. Just ask yourself.